Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Huddle. We're back today doing a Big Ten preview for the upcoming season. I'm here with Clint Cosgrove. How are you doing today, Clint?
Fantastic. Good to see you, Emily. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. How's your summer been?
It's been summer. I live in San Diego, so it's always summer.
Yeah.
Spent some time at the beach, worked.
Good.
Yeah, it's been a fun summer. I'm ready for football season. That's for sure, though.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you. Real quickly, I always think this is funny because you and I have talked about San Diego because I grew up in San Diego. And this is not really anything related to football, but I actually don't eat meat, yet I remain an absolute advocate for In-N-Out. People know this about me. I will get into debates and conversations
Wow.
about this pretty regularly. I love In-N-Out. I ate meat as a kid. I have obviously wonderful memories of In-N-Out, going to the beach, everything that kind of encapsulates a childhood in San Diego. But it's always funny to me because we have had In-N-Out locations open up in the Pacific Northwest
Oh
and kind of
yeah.
like the long lines. And I have like friends who wait in them, even family members who like wait in those lines. And I refuse to because I remember growing up and it taking like no more than 20 minutes for me to
Yeah.
order and get my food. And people are like waiting an hour plus to get their food. And I'm like, I refuse to do that. I don't love In-N-Out that much. I don't need French fries that badly. But I just think it's so funny how, and I imagine you can relate to like the In-N-Out just being there. Like it's just like like obviously it's just inevitable that you have an In-N-Out somewhere near you and you can go and get your food relatively quickly.
Well, you're gonna laugh about this because In-N-Out's on that side and the beach is on that side. So I literally live
Really?
across from an In-N-Out,
Yes.
and it causes tons of traffic. It's
Yeah,
always busy. But yeah, I still run across the street and grab some
of
stuff
course.
every now and then. I had a rule that I had to go to the gym before I got In-N-Out when I came here. I've gotten In-N-Out a lot more times than I've been to the gym. But I've been to the beach a lot too. So go
It's just
In-N-Out,
so
beach.
easy. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so easy. Get your food, go to the beach. That was kind of just like the ritual. But
Yeah.
I had to throw that in there because you mentioned San Diego. And I was like, no one's understanding why I'm not waiting in line for an obscene amount of time for In-N-Out
Oh
because
yeah.
I can't do it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It causes
we're here
traffic
to talk
jams.
lots. We're here to talk about Big Ten football. Super excited for the season. Super excited to get your own personal thoughts and opinions on kind of how you see the season playing out for the Big Ten and the teams that are in the conference. So, to kind of kick things off, I would love to know who do you think enters this season as the team to beat in the conference?
This is hard because there's a bunch of teams that have a chance. But I'm going to go with Oregon. I'm going to go with your Ducks, Emily. They're just from top to bottom. The roster is just so full. Defensive line, defensive backs, transfers, obviously the quarterback in a quarterback driven conference, quarterback driven college
Right.
football. Plethora of receivers: Jeremiah McClellan, DeCorian Moore, Evan Stewart coming back. They've got Bear Gatlin's coming off his mission. I think you got a bunch of guys in there. Running backs. I mean, from top to bottom, they're stacked. They're stacked. They lost some dudes, but Dante coming back is a huge deal. But then, I mean, you've got Ohio State. Obviously, they have to replace a lot of production, obviously, but they always do, and they do a great job recruiting. Indiana, you can't doubt Signetti ever after what we've seen. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think Oregon is the team to beat right now. But there's a lot of players in this conference.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of players, a lot of good teams in this conference. I'm super excited to see. I mean, I say this now, I recognize I say this now in July as we are recording this, when I'm not as emotionally attached or invested because the season has not begun yet. But I'm super excited to see like what the other teams look like and how these games start going and how people start performing for sure. Um, Kind of going with the opposite, like which program do you think is flying under the radar heading into the season?
I mean,
People aren't
there's a
talking
lot of
about them as
school.
much. Yeah.
What was that?
I said maybe people aren't talking about them as much, or maybe, just like they're not getting as much national attention.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's obviously Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana are going to be the talk of everybody, and they're going to make the national conversation. But there's a lot of depth in this conference. You look at Michigan with Kyle Whittingham coming in. I think they have a chance. They've done to me. Kyle Whittingham is one of the best college football coaches there is,
Yeah.
hands down. Like He is so impressive in every aspect of how he builds a football program, football team. He doesn't get caught up in the media, the rankings, all that stuff. He just plays his style of ball. There's smash mouth. I think he walks into a good situation there. UCLA, I mean, Bob Chesney coming all the way from James Madison. Everyone kind of seems like a weird fit going from east to west, but he was able to bring some guys with him. Everyone looks at what Signetti did when he went to Indiana. I don't know if we can necessarily expect that. UCLA is a different beast, but I guess Indiana was a different beast when he got there. UCLA has some talent, starting with Nico at quarterback. And they brought in some transfers. They have a lot of their production coming back. You look at Washington. They get talked about nationally because obviously it starts with the head coach Jed Fish and the quarterback, which had a very interesting offseason. And then you've got Penn State, another new coach, and Matt Campbell coming in there and bringing a lot of his guys from Iowa State, who he's had success with, he's a known program builder. You look from top to bottom, and you could realistically make a case for like 7 or 8 of these teams being really good. But Penn State, and then USC, obviously a national brand, but they have players. They do. Starting with the quarterback, they've got some good young receivers, maybe not proven yet, but they've got a lot of talent and depth as well. They got Gary Patterson, I think, came in as the new DC, the old TCU coach. So I think there's a lot of teams, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, obviously everyone's going to talk about, but USC, Penn State, Michigan, Washington. I would usually say Iowa. They always have a chance, but they've lost a lot of production, probably the most in the Big Ten, I think. But there's always going to be a sleeper team. There's always going to be a disappointment. I just think the conference is extremely deep, and if you can win in the conference in the Big Ten, you set yourself up for a chance to go to the playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of mentioned all 4 West Coast teams. So that's a really good segue to my next question is how have Oregon, USC, Washington, and UCLA continued to shape the identity of the Big Ten?
Yeah, when they first came in, I thought there might be a little of an adjustment period, and I think there was. USC, they come in and, when it was late in the year, traveling to the other coast, playing in the cold, it wasn't always the best thing for them. But what it has done is I think it's really, kids, I grew up knowing, I remember watching USC in Texas in the national champ, or it was the Rose Bowl at the time, I guess. But, I think it was the Rose Bowl. But, kids nowadays, almost like Nebraska, they don't remember when USC was a national power, with Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, all those guys. And so I think with kids now in the Midwest, and watching those guys play, and these schools now have a footprint in the Midwest, and they were already national recruiting teams, just as the Midwest schools are going out west. Now these kids out west are watching them play in their hometowns. So I think it has definitely changed the way the recruiting goes, definitely changed the national profile. You talk about these West Coast teams, they've come in outside of Oregon. I wouldn't say that they've destroyed everybody, but they have they've definitely made an imprint and impact as far as competing for the conference title. As far as recruiting goes, I think it's made everybody have a national footprint. And then as far as exposure goes and TV and you learn about travel science with these schools going from west to east and east to west, and it's definitely made an impact. And I was a traditionalist, working in the NIL space now. It's hard to say I'm a traditionalist. I was the one who didn't want bowl games to go away.
Right.
But it's definitely become the conference. Last three national champions have come from the conference. So when you add this national profile, giving SEC a run for their money and having a lot of success both on the recruiting trail and on the field.
Yeah, for sure. That has to be such an interesting perspective for you as well. Having been a traditionalist and remembering what college football used to be now to working in NIL and seeing that perspective that is so symbolic to modern college football. I can only imagine how it is seeing the entire spectrum of how college football has come to be what it is today.
Yeah.
And even with conference realignment, kind of like considering that, like remembering how conferences began and like the Big Ten, what it was to what it is now, and how that only, contributes to the overall identity, but its overall strength and depth as well.
Yeah, I remember when it was a big deal when Penn State made the Big Ten 11 and they had to
Yeah,
change the logo with the T to make it an 11.
right.
And yeah, and they were a powerhouse coming in. And I never thought it would get to the 32 teams that they have right now. But yeah, no, it's a new age in football. You either have to adjust and accept or die trying. So
Right. And not to like get off gears here because I'm asking you questions now, but kind of with the players that you work with currently, this is like the version of college football that they're most accustomed to
yeah.
because of their age, but of course, like how they are coming up in the college football world. So, like you bring probably such perspective and have those different perspectives of having been pretty well integrated into old college football versus new college football.
Yeah, I would say I take a traditionalist view on all of this. Yeah, it is what they know. I wish not that I would have been a big money maker, but I wish I would have played in this time and age. But yeah, no, I do take a traditionalist view, like, transfer portal. Okay, it's there, but like I like my players to be happy where they're planted, and the number one thing is you can't be a great player, you can't be a great person if you're not happy. And I guess happy is an overstatement if you're not content and find joy in what you're doing. That's what I preach to my guys. Be patient, compete, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and there's great opportunities where you're at. So, yeah, I do take a traditionalist view into the new world, but I'm not afraid to step outside my box and see this is where things are going, and really try to be a good guy in this space and roll with the times.
Yeah.
There's guys that when I played, there's guys who the school would sell their jersey, their name's not on the back of it, everybody bought it for their number, and they don't make it in the NFL. The school made a bunch of money off of them. They have nothing to do. Their whole identity is football. Never made a dime off of it, and then trouble can come with that. So this is the new era. It took a while to get adjusted to, but we have to get used to it because it's not going anywhere, and we can still find some joy in this new football era, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with conference realignment, God only knows what it's going to look like in
Yeah.
another chunk of years, right? With teams possibly moving even more. And like the hypothesis of like mega conferences or two super conferences eventually being the end deal. It's all fascinating stuff. And then you have like, the SEC talking about leaving the NCAA just yesterday at media days. So never short of headlines in the sport.
No
Never
question.
storylines for
A lot of
sure.
controversy.
Always, absolutely. So, with the Big Ten, which coach do you think enters the season with the most pressure? That can either be a good thing or a bad thing, however you
Yeah.
view that.
I mean, pressure can be good in the profession. Probably
Right.
Luke Fickle.
Yeah. Okay.
He walked into an interesting situation at Wisconsin. I think, winning had masked a lot of the recruiting that hadn't been operating at a high level. In the new era of college football, they were still trying to win with development and X's and O's, and you can still do that. I truly believe you can. But
Mhm.
recruiting wasn't at the forefront. Wisconsin came into a position in the new era where they didn't have anything close to a collective. They didn't even have really a booster group anymore. And so you walk in, and at the time where you wanted, at the most pivotal time in college football, to have a roster worth retaining. And when I say that is, and that's what I say when I talk to GMs and schools, if you have a roster worth retaining, you can be a developmental program. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that. Obviously, it's not as simple as it was back in the day. We'll just recruit hard, tough-nosed players who want to be at this school, and we'll develop them, and they'll win. Obviously, there's a talent aspect that's a little different nowadays because the talent is more widespread, and you've got to have some impact players to go against the top schools that have consolidated a lot of the talent. But I would say Wisconsin, because I think Fickle's in a spot where he's finally getting the support. Now it's a few years in, and this hasn't gone as expected, but I don't think people necessarily realize the challenges that he had when coming in. A lot of people might call me an apologist for saying that, but I think he's a great coach. We saw what he did at Cincinnati and
Right.
Wisconsin. Now they're in a place, I think, where they're willing and ready to adapt, and I think they have the right guy to do it. But he's going to be on a short leash. There's a new AD there. Chris McIntosh is out. They just hired the AD from Iowa State, who used to be at Wisconsin back in the day. A lot of eyes on him. I think they've done a good job building the roster. Hopefully, they have a chance to compete because I do think Fickle is a good coach. Maybe it's not the right fit, but I think it has a chance to be. And if they can get things rolling, it'll be really good. But if they don't go to a bowl game this season, you have to imagine that he's not there the following season.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there are many fans calling for his firing last season.
Yeah,
So I'm with you in a sense of like this season, he's on a short leash and this could be it. Like,
yeah.
you have to see that improvement, which would be bowl eligibility. So absolutely. Um, is there a national perception about the Big Ten that you think is inaccurate?
Big, slow, and play between the trenches. I just think maybe back in the day, but
Yeah.
that's how you won football games. Now you still have to be tough. You still have to be able to run the ball, and you still have to play defense. But Big Ten is as much skill as anybody. I mean, you look at the draft last year, and I think this comes with the new era of college football. But what first pick Mendoza, Indiana. Third pick or fourth pick Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State. So their skill, they can stretch the field with anybody else. And you add these West Coast teams like Oregon, who's always been explosive, always had talent, been a big Nike school. UCLA, who's had success in the past. And then, I think you still need to be physical. And like I said, run the ball, play defense. But there is a lot of speed and there's a lot of talent in the Big Ten. People complain about, the Big Ten schedule and all this. Well, just because not every name's not flashy and not in the SEC. Now, granted, there's a lot of talent in the SEC, so this is not a
Yeah.
put down. I remember when my dad was coaching at LSU back in 2019, and I'm like, wow. I was like, I had no idea. I grew up a Big Ten fan. I grew up in Madison, and so, but I think the Big Ten has closed the gap, and I do think there's depth. I don't know if there's as much talent still as the SEC, but the top level, the top tier of talent is definitely in the same atmosphere. And I just this isn't the old school now ground and pound Big Ten. This is we're gonna go out there and compete with the best athletes as anybody in the nation.
Right. I'll never forget when Oregon lost to Nebraska, which doesn't seem that long ago, but it's actually way longer than I remember it to be. And, those friends that call you, that like never talk to you, but when your team loses, they like reach
Yeah,
out.
those friends.
Those friends, I will never forget like that, getting those messages and basically like, oh, well, they tried to play with the big boys, like the boys who are those rough ground and pound, like that type of, stereotype that I think really aligned with the Big Ten, especially the old Big Ten, like you were talking about. And I think that perception is equivalent to like old college football in a sense, and kind of like
Yeah,
what the Big Ten was. And now it's evolved to like this newer identity that I don't even think that's because of conference realignment. I think Ohio State is like a really good example
oh
of
yeah,
that, being an electric, powerful, and fast team, explosive. And so I just think that identity has kind of evolved and changed throughout the years, even prior to the West Coast teams joining. But absolutely, yep, definitely. You get those messages, and that was just kind of like the identity that everybody knew it to be. Like Oregon's fast and explosive, but they're not strong or tough like these Big Ten teams. They can't compete. So absolutely. All right. So more fun questions.
okay,
Which team could surprise everyone? And that's really hard to top, being that Indiana, which was like the most losing
yeah.
team in college football, just won a national title. But them aside, which team could surprise everyone?
I think you could go. Geez, I mean, there's a lot, but I'm gonna go with either Washington, Michigan, or Wisconsin.
Okay. I don't
Um,
love the Washington pick, but I'm with you on the Michigan and Wisconsin. I'll join
yeah.
you on that. I
Okay.
think a lot. I similarly to you love Kyle Whittingham. I thought that was
Yeah.
slam dunk hire. And there was so much chatter right before that hire of like Michigan joined this coaching race too late. Like, who are they
Yeah.
going, you know? And like, so many people were talking about Kalen DeBoer going to Michigan and leaving Alabama. That Kyle Whittingham, the fact that they nailed that was just magnificent for that program and that team. And when I
Yeah, I
talk
didn't see that coming.
Right. Like when I talk to Michigan fans, they agree. They're like, oh, that was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And he hopefully brings a sense of calm and maturity
Yes.
to a program that historically needs a sense of calm and maturity
Yeah.
based on how they've been in the news and in the headlines of recent years. So I think that's a great hire. I'm kind of worried I'm being too optimistic. Like I'm expecting Michigan to be like a certain level.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think, regardless, I was just talking about this with somebody else. I think, regardless of the experience a coach brings, having 1 year to adapt and kind of get a team together and that cohesion, I think, is understandable. Like, player or fans who expect, a playoff
Yeah.
spot
It's Michigan.
in year one of a coach. Right. It's like, okay, that's not totally out of the question, but that might be reaching too high. But with Michigan, like it's just like I'm not sure what their final record's going to be, but I totally buy into like the optimism of the program right now because the fact that they were able to hire Winningham, I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, and they got Jason Beck, the OC there, who had what was it Devin Dampier? Dampier. I don't even know how to say the name. I get roasted for mispronouncing names, but that
That's
comes with
okay.
the territory, I guess.
That's okay.
But kind of a similar player to Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood, I think, has a better arm than Devin did, and he did wonders with him. I also, another team that I'd throw in there is UCLA because they have the quarterback to do it. I think Nico's a great player. He just needs some more dudes around him, and I think they've done a good job of doing that, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Michigan will be very interesting to watch, and it's funny to say that Michigan could be a surprise. One of
I
the
know.
winningest teams
Yeah,
in college football
I
history.
know.
Yeah, but this is the new era, and it's kind of like Nebraska. They've had recent success, but there's just been so much turmoil there that you could throw Penn State in that conversation as well, and I think that says a lot to the depth of this conference.
Totally. Yeah, that's yeah, absolutely. And which preseason expectations seem too high? Who
Jeez.
might not live up to the hype?
Whew.
Washington? You didn't say Washington.
No, I'm not going to say
You can
Washington.
say
You want me to say Washington?
Washington. I mean,
I know.
USC?
I really don't know. It's like I would say Indiana, but you can't say it. But you
Yeah,
wonder, how long can this be sustained?
right.
I don't doubt anything about Signetti now. I mean, he plays with grown men, and there's an edge to that team, and they're prepared, and yeah. So, geez, I don't know. You would say, and I hate to say this because I think they're the best team in the country, probably, but Oregon. Anything less than a national championship, people aren't
Right.
going to be happy with, and I don't see them going undefeated. There's going to be a drop at some point. I mean, you look at Oregon, they beat almost everybody, and his Lanning's record against non-national championship teams is ridiculous, and I think it's 1-5 versus national championship teams. So,
Yeah.
do they end up getting an early loss or a playoff loss to a future national champion? I don't know. But that's a hard standard to keep because anything less than that, people are not going to be happy. Either way, Oregon's going to be great. But they have the highest standard, and it'll be interesting to see. Indiana, people expect them to fall off because they're Indiana, but I don't know. That's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Ohio State replaces a lot of production with a lot of talent, and they've always been able to reload. They have a new offense coordinator this year. He went to the NFL for that. So I really don't know. It's always going to happen. I just don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I know you think it's going to be Washington, Emily, and tell
Always.
me why.
It's not even that I think, okay, it's not even that I think it's going to be Washington. It's like the art of manifestation, Clint. If I don't
There we
consistently
go. Put
hope
out
for
that
their
energy.
downfall, yeah, if I don't consistently hope for their failures and
How
downfalls,
are they going to fail?
who's to blame when they happen to be successful?
Well, it's
So,
not going to be you now.
Nope, not going to be me. Absolutely not. I would not be doing my part as their rival if I was like, you know what, Clint, I agree with you. Um, that's
Thank you
not
for
to
your
say
service.
that's not to say that I can't be objective. I can understand strengths and like back when they went to the national championship against Michigan,
Yeah.
I could very easily understand why that team made it. But, since then, absolutely not. And the entire like off-season debacle of their quarterback leaving and then
Yeah.
coming back and the narratives around that have been nothing short of entertaining, but I understand why that raises questions amongst their fans and within that program.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. I mean, that's definitely not something that I've ever seen before, especially with a player of that
Right.
caliber. So, yeah.
Right. New college football, right? Modern
Yeah.
college
I mean,
football.
how would you feel as a teammate? Like, hey, bro, you left like a week ago. Now you're back.
Right. And now
Yeah.
you're back. Yeah,
The
exactly.
lawyers made you come back.
Exactly. It's not a super great look.
Yeah. No,
So
I
it'll be
agree.
fascinating. It'll be fascinating for sure.
Yeah.
So which team do you think is being overlooked from the Big Ten? I think you bring up some really good points with like Wisconsin needing to improve, not necessarily thinking they're going to have this phenomenal year, but
Yeah.
Wisconsin. But there's other teams that we haven't really talked about, like Nebraska. I know you mentioned Iowa, Minnesota. I'm just trying to remind you of all the teams. I'm not saying these are
Yeah, I know. There's so many of
there's so
them.
many. Penn
I
State,
mean,
Maryland,
I would say, and Maryland could end up being horrible, but everybody's crapping on them early and saying they're going to be horrible. And like, I watched that team last year go into
yeah,
Madison and beat Wisconsin pretty good. And there's a lot of young talent there. That quarterback, what's his name? Washington? Is it
Malik Washington.
Malik Washington? That kid is a stud. They had some good veteran receivers last year. They hired who did they hire? Trickett as the offensive coordinator, maybe. Another one of the big, non-head coach hires from the conference. So they had, they had a really good young defensive end. There was a lot of studs there. I don't know if the whole chemistry came together. It's one of those teams that I feel like if they got hot, they could go on a run. But the wheels fell off last year,
Yeah.
and you can't be a front runner. Like you've got to be able to play with the pendulum as the momentum swings, and they just didn't seem mature enough to do that. That's another guy who's big pressure seat is Loxley. They have to win, but they've done a decent job recruiting. They brought in some under the radar studs, and it all starts with the quarterback again. So I think
Yeah.
that's a team that maybe you could say they're being slept on. Now, are they going to go to the national championship? I highly doubt it. But could they be bowl eligible? Yeah, and a lot of people's projecting them. I don't know what their overall win total is by Vegas, but like I've seen like 2, 3, 4 wins, and I think they can definitely be a bowl team. Nebraska, I have no clue. That's just a hard place to win. They haven't done very well. I know,
Right.
but yeah, I mean Illinois with Bielema,
There
they
you go.
always have a chance.
Yeah.
I think they brought in the East Carolina quarterback who had some success. He started out at Michigan State. Hopefully, I'm not talking about somebody else. But yeah, Bielema's teams are always going to be extremely physical, play fundamentally sound, not turn the ball over. And although they lost Luke Altmaier, I think they have some good young players. They've done a good job developing guys. It'll be interesting to see what they do this year, but you can't count him out with Bielema because he's going to find the strength of the team and they're going to rally on that and they're going to play the ball that's complementary to their talent and their roster. I remember his first year or second year, they were going 7, 8 linemen sometimes because he's like, we can't do anything else, and they were just mashing people and they'd find a way to win, control the ball, don't turn it over, and make guys feel pain after the game. And
Yeah.
so you can't count them out. Same thing with Iowa. But Iowa, I think, is one of the least returning production teams in the nation. But they haven't. Their defense has been like top 10 for how many years in a row. So another very fundamentally sound team, and they'll give people headaches. And again, speaks to the depth of the conference. I could make an argument for a lot of teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now we're gonna do the Big Ten lightning round. So,
Okay.
gut reaction, whatever you think, what first comes
Oh
to
gosh.
mind. Just to be
All
quick.
right.
No pressure. It's totally fine. I mean, People are going to be wrong. People are going to be right.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
probably going to be, well, we'll see.
okay. Big Ten champion,
Oregon,
runner up,
Ohio State.
dark horse team.
Gosh, I've named like 30 of them.
Oh,
I'm going to
which one
say
is
UCLA.
okay? Yeah, that seems good. You've been like talking about UCLA.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise.
Whew. We've talked about those too. Who are you going to go with?
Is this like class? Like we're gonna take each
Yeah,
other's
yeah.
years?
Tell me
Biggest
who you're
surprise.
going with.
I know. Well, see, I'm just realizing the biggest surprise can be positive or negative. But we're
Ooh,
for the sake of being positive.
I
No,
guess I
it's
only
gonna be
think positive.
we're gonna be positive because the next one's gonna be biggest disappointment.
Okay.
So the biggest surprise I think is going to be God, that's hard. I'm understanding your point of view now. It's really easy when you just ask the questions. Let's go with Penn State. I think they might be slightly better than people think they're going to be.
You know what? I
It
think
helps.
that's a good pick.
Yeah, it
I'm going to
helps with
side with you.
Jones. I think there's.
Matt Campbell's great. They have a lot coming back, and it's interesting because he's in one of the few guys who's in a unique position where he brought his top talented guys off of a fairly successful team that he's been coaching for years, and to plug and play over there. So I think Penn State's a good one. We'll go Penn State.
Perfect. Biggest disappointment.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna get killed for this.
That's okay. You won't.
Indiana or USC?
Okay. See, I was actually thinking one of those two, so that's good. Coach under the most pressure, which I asked you this.
Yeah, Fickle.
Pickle. Yep. Okay. Best game on the schedule. You can go with the
Ooh,
classic.
that's Ohio State at. Oregon at Ohio State. That's got to be the one.
Yeah. And then the college football playoff teams from the Big Ten. Sorry, excuse me. The college football playoff teams from the Big Ten.
See, I'm doing a lot of contradicting of myself here, but
Okay.
I said Indiana could be the biggest disappointment. But I'm going
But
to
they
say,
seem really good. If people are expecting them to play at a high level,
yeah,
maybe
they're not going to go undefeated. I
right.
would be willing to bet on that. I'd say, I mean, we saw the SEC have 5 teams last year. It's almost, I feel like if you're the third team who doesn't make the championship game, you're in a great position.
Yeah.
But I'd like to say at least we'll go Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. Just said USC could be a disappointment. We'll throw them as a contender. We'll put USC, and then Penn State or Michigan. I don't know.
Okay. Big Ten heavy.
I do think there can be 4 or 5 teams. I don't think there will be. I think maybe there will be. There's going to be at least a third, I believe. I
A
do.
third.
But
Yeah.
I think there's parity in the conference, which everybody complained about in the SEC. Like, oh, we just beat each other up. I think we're to a point where there is parity in the conference,
Yeah.
and their teams are going to beat each other up. Like, there's no, from top to bottom, I mean, there's not a gimme. With Fitzgerald at Michigan State, I don't think that's a gimme anymore. So yeah, neither is Northwestern. Like, is Chip Kelly going there? Like, I think this is lining up to be a great season.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. I'm with you on the amount of teams making the playoff for sure. But as you said, this is going to be a great season. I'm super excited for it. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk some Big Ten football with me. Can you tell people where they can find you, like on socials?
Yeah, Instagram, I believe, is Clint _Cosgrove.
Yeah.
And let's see. Yeah. Clint _Cosgrove.
Okay,
And then Twitter, I believe, or X, my bad. I am Clint C. Let's see. This is bad. I've been off socials a lot lately. Yeah, at I am CLINT _C. I am Clint C. And also at ProPath Management, which is our NIL management agency.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Clint. Have a wonderful remainder of your summer and happy almost college football season.
Happy almost college football season. Hopefully I see you at a game this year.
Absolutely. Looking forward
Yes.
to it. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily.